to have a very good interaction between the participants. That will be the webinar very fruitful for everybody. Now I will pass the words to Semida Silveira, that will moderate our debate today. And also I will ask to the participants in the debate to turn on the cameras. Please, Semida, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We have the cameras on for our panelists, 10 panelists here today, and many participants. So I'm looking forward to a very lively debate. So how can cities become more intelligent and sustainable as they address climate change? What lies ahead? And most of all, what are the opportunities to seize as we transform our cities and work together to solve perhaps the biggest challenge that the human society has ever faced, climate change? I am Semida Silveira, and I'm founder of Sustainable Vision and professor of energy systems planning at KTH, and co-leader of the Smart City Concepts project. The cooperation of Swedish partners with the city of Curitiba dates back from 2013. And since then, we have collaborated to develop new knowledge and test new solutions in the urban environment. For example, we tested electric buses in the public transport of Curitiba, and we are now developing a 3D platform to enhance planning capabilities. Today, you will meet some members of our team in Sweden and Brazil and learn more about what we are doing. In the webinar today, we will discuss the development of a charter for smart cities in Brazil and why it is important for the climate challenge. It's an important process, ongoing process. Talk about how our project, the Smart City Concepts, with a team with Brazilians and Swedish experts, is contributing to address climate change in the city of Curitiba. And we will explore opportunities to create zero-emission urban areas and transform our cities into sustainable and prosperous space. And we will have Curitiba as our case, of course. Our topic is very timely as COP26 is underway in Glasgow, and the future of climate change lies to a great extent on decisions to be made in that meeting. We expect nothing less than decisions on actions that will limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius as agreed in the Paris Agreement. And this means CO2 emissions must decrease 45% until 2030 and reach zero in 2050. And how will that be possible? What about the implementation of climate actions to actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions? Well, cities will definitely have to play a major role in the process, and cities need to be smart. And this is why we are working with cities. I would like to invite you to answer a question already now in the Mentimeter. So if you, just a second here, something happened here in my screen. So, yes, if you go to the Mentimeter, you will have the question, what is a smart city for you? You can write as many words as you associate with the smart cities. And we will look at the results in a few minutes. So my colleague Daniel Pigato has just put the instructions, how you go into the Mentimeter and participate. So now I would like to invite two colleagues. I have invited two of my colleagues, Professor Keiko Fonseca and Carol Benelli from ITS. Professor Keiko Fonseca is from UTFPR, the Technological University in Curitiba, in Paraná. And we are going to sort out a little bit some aspects of the transformation of cities towards net zero urban areas. Because on the one hand, we have environmental, social, and economic challenges. But on the other hand, we also have new technologies evolving, which could provide support and opportunities. For example, renewable energy and digitalization. Professor Keiko Fonseca, we often hear that cities need to become smart. The term smart cities is often associated with digitalization. What about zero carbon cities? What is the relationship between smart cities and zero carbon cities? Is the one a requirement for the other?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the question, Professor Semida. Yeah, sure. Smart city, it's a kind of buzzword associated with digitalization. But in fact, digitalization does not play the main role on the smartness of a city. A smart city should be a city committed to the sustainable urban development and the efficient use of resources. The digital transformation can help make that possible. But in fact, it's not the only solution. In other words, the digital transformation will be an enabler towards sustainability. We need to have this systemic vision of the city, an integration of urban planning using digital tools. It's very advantageous for the purpose of efficient solutions, not least to cope with climate change. Thus, there is this strong relationship between zero carbon cities and smart cities. Since this is about a sustainable urban development coordinated with the logical and natural system as much as that of human system. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that it's a requirement, but it's an enabler. And we sure have to qualify more people and use better those tools of digitalization. But they are not the Pandora box or that, and the how can I say, the most important tool. We need people thinking about the results and information gathered from those tools to have the zero carbon cities and the smart cities. Thank you.
Well, thank you for helping us sort this out. We know that Brazil is presently developing a charter for smart cities, something you are directly involved in. So what does that mean, and why is that important for us?
Yeah, this charter, it's resulted from a mobilization of a huge community aimed to clarify concepts about smart cities, establish an agenda, and the strategic goals for the Brazilian smart cities. The charter is an initiative related to the national policy for urban development, that it is still under construction by the Ministry of Regional Development. And this plan is also built with contributions from the Ministry of Communications, Ministry of Science, Technology, Innovation, as well as governmental and non-governmental entities and individuals. The complexity of this theme, smart cities, requires a fine-tuning of other plans as well, other national plans. For example, national IoT plan, national telecommunication plan, digital cities plans. And today, for example, it's a very important day because it's there will be a huge bid for 5G frequencies in Brazil. And we have to think about all those infrastructures research we need. Digital transformation and environment are clearly stated as the strategical goal number one for policies, programs, and actions of sustainable urban development, respecting diversity and considering the present inequalities found in Brazilian cities. Our project, the Smart City Concepts, clearly fulfill the Charter's directives. We have been pioneers in this process and are very proud that Curitiba stands as an example for other cities as well. Another very important charter directive refers to funding for the development of smart cities. This is about implementation of actions that contribute to achieve overarching goals such as zero carbon cities, reduction of negative impacts of natural environment, and improved efficiency in the use of natural resources. These actions should contribute to improve urban resilience while also improve life quality and reduce inequalities. The importance of this charter community could be noticed, for example, on the process of establishing the new Brazilian legislation regarding smart cities at the National Congress. Is the law about the national policy of smart cities. The charter community was represented on the public audiences at the Federal Chamber of Deputies and has contributed to the law proposal under discussion, for example, including open data to cities.
Thank you, Keiko. It's very good to see that Brazil is making progress on that. And you named a lot of relations with other initiatives, very much related to the digitalization process. So I hope also not only the diversity aspects, but also the environmental aspects remain important here. And let's move then talk about one of those aspects also that is very important. One is the hardware, and Professor Keiko named, for example, now the procurement of 5G infrastructure. Ana Carolina Benelli, you are part of the Committee for Open Data in Curitiba. So another aspect of this digitalization is the data issue. And Curitiba is definitely ahead of many cities in Brazil in terms of its work with sustainability and also the use of open data. Can you explain to us what the Committee for Open Data does? How is the city working with the issues of digitalization and sustainability? And how important is open data for the transformation of the city?
Definitely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, Professora Semida. Thank you very much, Alessandra, and all my colleagues here at the panel. It has been a pleasure to work with you guys at the Smart City Concepts project. And I'm quite honored to be here as well, telling you a little bit more of how this project was important to the city of Curitiba. First of all, you asked me about the Open Data Committee. The Open Data Committee is part of the City Council of Technology and Science and Innovation, and it tries to structure open data governance in Curitiba. It tries to attend all the different aspects of a smart cities in Curitiba. One of the goals of the committee is to gather all these ecosystem actors to discuss open data and carry out planning, monitoring, and connecting actions with all the different stakeholders. The main focus here, Semida, is to study the availability and the use of open data in Curitiba and to promote the development of the solutions for our city, such as environmental issues. As you know, a smart city can have 6 aspects in a framework developed by Gifinger, who has studied medium cities in Europe. He has developed 6 very important pillars, which are economy, environment, smart living, smart mobility, and smart people. And as you can see, there is a number of issues to be solved related to all these aspects that I have just showed you. Yes, thank you for sharing the screen. And all these public services co-creation with all these other actors, as I told you, one of the aims of the committee is to gather stakeholders. It helps the innovation through open data government. So we also use the triple helix framework as well as the factors brought by Nan and Pardo, which are the technological factors, such as open data, institutional factors, such as the support from City Council from Curitiba, and also the human aspect, which are all the actors that are part of this smart city and use the open data. What we do need to realize is that the open data has a huge impact bringing transparency, social empowerment, and improving all the democracy in the city. It also encouraged the innovative development of new products and services. And it's important to say as well that the open data can boost the economy of this territory. A recent study in the Open Data European portal has just shown that in 2025, Europe alone is supposed to correspond and to have around 200 and 350 billion euros. Around, it would be like a growth rate of at least 7% per year. So that just shows how much open data can help the local economy. And this same study has also shown that the number of employees using open data was speed up by all the startups. So it was led by all the startups. So it means that small business, which have a technological basis, are the business who are actually having and creating new models based on open data. And telling you a little bit about the opening of this data, it means that reusing and having all these different visualization, it can help to contribute to understand and to solve complex and social problems and environment challenges in the cities. As for example, whenever you have a look at a database called Forest Orange Document, DOF, you can with that you can access and improve inspection of the production and transport of Amazon wood and public and private policies that promote the sustainability of this sector. So it means that through open data, you can actually research data related to the environment of the city or of the territory that you are looking at. And through that, you can make new public policies. You can make you can improve the service of the city. So just to tell you a little bit about open data and to bring you a little more of context of this open data committee, which was created mainly because of the smart city projects. It was pretty much the where it started, the whole idea of monitoring the open data of the city of Curitiba.
Well, thank you very much, Ana Carolina, for everything, for actually the examples, which give a very good idea of how we can use the data, and also for telling us about the impact of our project in the development of the city. We're very happy about that. Time is running very fast here, and we have many other panelists aligned. But before we go, I just wanted Professor Keiko to comment a little bit on what it would mean, actually, this. Is there a disparity in the fact that, I mean, Ana Carolina gave the example of the Amazon, for example, very much discussed the topic now in Glasgow, for example, the issue of forests. And is it a problem that we have the national governments are the actual decision makers in the UN process, for example, while the cities are not, where the cities are not directly represented? And is there a mismatch in this governance? How serious is that?
Yeah, sure. There is this mismatch. Since the UN Habitat 3, there is this discussion about the role of the cities and their effective participation at the UN system. Brazil, it's as a federation, it's a clear example of that. Although all of these limitations of participation, UNIT has been trying to change this, for example, by supporting national urban forums and also providing funds for city transformation. But yes, there is still a long way to go. Even cities, cities usually does not have an international mandate for negotiation international funding, and that is they are not usually recognized for politically nor legally for that. and even cities playing an important and leading role for sustainable development, there is a need of an autonomous structures inside the UNO system in order to grant cities the right to vote, additionally to the current right to voice and the seat. Curitiba, as well as some other cities, did not wait for the national agenda to find out solutions. And Curitiba has been leading the process of establishing policies to address climate changes, thinking about its future. For example, we are working on studying macro trends on several fields, science fields, and using this information to better plan the cities. For example, if the cities invest on increasing its resiliency, not only to climate change, but this will probably help the city to overcome challenges, for example, the pandemics. One example of readiness is the municipal legislation. In Curitiba, for example, we are already complying to the national legislation about antennas. That is, Curitiba is ready to deploy 5G. There are only 7 Brazilian state capitals that have their legislation adherent to the 5G antenna deployments. And that is the way of thinking about future scenarios. And those future scenarios will be essential. This analysis of those future scenarios will be essential to help the city to be a zero carbon city. But that's not enough. Intermunicipal mechanisms should be set to manage, for example, common assets like water and energy. Mm-hmm. So cities must share knowledge and work together on better regulation and funding.
Yeah, well, thank you, Keiko, for that, because actually we will see how the new legislation for water and sanitation will help in this intermunicipality cooperation, for example. And time is moving very fast, but I'll have to stop the discussion of this point. We could have a whole webinar only on this topic because I find it very interesting. But for the time, let's say, then yes, we can see here that cities are more and more moving to the forefront. And Curitiba is really a model here. It's one of the models in Brazil, but also in the world, as we're going to see. And the process of digitalization will be also very important, and how we actually deal with all the data that we can generate to benefit the city development and the whole global and national agendas is going to be very important. Now we are going to go and see the results of our first question in the multimeter. There we have a smart city, we have sustainability, we have technology, efficiency, quite big there, but we also have important issues related to mobility. We have the issue of integration. It's a city with technology. It's a city that uses the resources efficiently. Well, thank you. Yes, open data is also put here as very important. So thank you all for contributing here. So I'd like to move on and discuss now how cities become more intelligent and sustainable as they address climate change. What lies ahead and what opportunities are there to transform our cities and put them on a sustainable pathway? And I have some members here of the team. Professor Ricardo Luders from the UTFPR, Francisco Malucelli from Sweco, a consultancy in Sweden, Professor Eunice Liu, also from the UTFPR, Professor Nadia Kozievich from UTFPR. And we are now more specifically going to some questions that we have focused on in our collaboration with the city of Curitiba, and particularly the present edition of our project. We want to look into how we are working to support the city in this transformation, addressing climate change, inclusion, and sustainability as a whole. And through solutions that can be context, although the solutions can be context specific, the lessons that we learn can be shared as we test the sustainability pathways. So in our project, the Smart City Concepts, we have been asking these questions and proposing tools and exchange between stakeholders. One of the most important aspects of our cooperation is the transdisciplinary character of the process. Professor Ricardo Luders, you are one of the co-leaders of the project. And what is this all about? What are the advantages of a transdisciplinary process?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Semida. It's great to be part of this seminar, this webinar. Well, about transdisciplinary, when we put together several stakeholders, a networking of professionals, academics, volunteers, politicians is built. It's a fruitful environment for finding solutions to complex problems. We combine ideas, knowledge, and technologies with the capabilities of institutions to implement change, in this case, the city. Our model of cooperation has been to form a consortium with the city of Curitiba, involving the city administration, academia, and companies. In 2013, we conceptualized the project Smart City Concepts in Curitiba, choosing one key sustainability aspect of the city, mobility. We focused on public transport, an area that Curitiba has a long and recognized tradition. We explored how electrification could open opportunities for public transport to take a new quality leap in Curitiba, reducing emissions, noise, and pollution, but also offer enhanced service features. That time we demonstrated electromobility for public transport in Curitiba using two bus models that operated in the local traffic. Several tests were made by Volvo with a prototype which included a plug-in hybrid electric bus from Sweden and a charging station provided by Siemens. Ericsson delivered IT solutions components, and Copel, the local electricity company, delivered energy support service for the charging station. So it means that we have many players working together. This is the creativity that we have in our teams. So many students were carried out to monitor these demonstrations in that time. These studies were carried out by researchers from Sweden and Brazil and addressed the challenges and opportunities in the electrification of public transport in the city. We looked at technical issues and economic implications as well. The point is, we are able to put together professionals and expertise from different sources in Sweden and Brazil, and to enhance the knowledge about electromobility in the city. The achievements had not been possible without the engagement of city planners, the companies that deliver the technology, and the researchers that monitor it and analyze this experience. This is the very essence of transdisciplinarity. We planners, academics and enterprises, and citizens co-create solutions for the city. Well, now in the second edition of the project Smart City Concepts in Curitiba, we moved forward and we consider other dimensions. For example, we are looking more closely into logistics transport. We keep the overarching goal of sustainability and low carbon transport service, but we also address a segment that has received less attention: urban logistic transport. It's very important in the traffic of the city, and it's responsible for a lot of consumption and producing greenhouse emissions. So transport remains on the big challenges towards a low carbon future. In Brazil, about half of the greenhouse gas emissions come from transport. I mean, public transport, trucks, vehicles, light vehicles for logistics, Most of cities in the world are struggling with the transition to low carbon transport. Thus, the lessons we are learning here are useful for other cities. That's the main point, goal of our project, a transdisciplinary project involving many players, many stakeholders in a joint effort to build a common solution.
Thank you, Professor Ricardo. Yes, I mean, it's we know how complex it is to have this large group of stakeholders, but we also know of the benefits, as we are hearing today. And I would like to go to Professor Nadia Kozievich. Transport is one of the greatest challenges when it comes to the carbon reduction in the cities. And in what ways can the digitalization help us in developing the low carbon mobility? And actually, I have one question here that came to Professor Keiko, but if we don't have time to go back to her, perhaps you want to address as well, which is about the improvement of the urban resilience, which is also an issue in urban mobility, for example. So perhaps you, if possible, you could address that too. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be here discussing such important topic. So about the greatest challenges, as all the speakers that we had till now mentioned, we have so many different sides of things that we can see here. And from the point of view of the city, this rapid advance of information and communication technologies, what is called ICT, has opened a lot of opportunities for urban transport. Professor Luders already mentioned some, and Carol already mentioned other, but we have a lot of new applications that the general public can take advantage. For example, car sharing. And while this may enhance options for the transport user, it also brings new challenges, because we're talking about adaptation, we are talking about open data, we are talking about sharing code, for example. But this ICT also offers opportunities for planning and monitoring this public space in a different way. So we're talking about camera, we are talking about using daily data, streaming data every day. And we can define these different urban zones and monitor them for low carbon, for low noise, and prioritize flows, for example, in a city. Recently, due to COVID, we have a need to monitor mobility from the point of view of the health impacts, for example, here in the city, here in Curitiba. And the combination of the data from these multiple sources allow new planning possibilities. So we know, for example, the streaming data, what is going on in the city, what is going on with the health units, and we can plan for the next 3, 4, 5, 10 months or years. We need to develop new ICT-based tools that can support these urban planners, whether it's to improve transport services, or to reduce emission or noise, or to contain a virus. We can use these tools also for promoting societal and economical changes. And Smita, about the questions, do you want me to answer, or do you want to take it back to Keiko?
On the resilience, maybe if we can stick to these examples on both mobility and in the context of resilience, it could be interesting to hear comments from Keiko, since the question was addressed also to her.
Yeah, I can answer it by the chat, but or directly to the.
No, just say a few words about if you can draw this idea about the digitalization, for example, and the increase in urban resilience.
Yeah, I would use exactly the opposite example. We do not need digitalization all the time to improve urban resilience. For example, we can use education and citizenship. And the citizen could be the sensor or replace an actual digital sensor to provide information about, for example, flooding or due to flash storms or problems in the city. And you can use this, collect this data and put on some kind of tool, for example, Professor Nadia is working on. And then this information could be used to provide hints for future scenarios or even for current scenarios, and be used to design new street plans or solutions like those related to rainwater collection and things like that. So you don't need always digital sensors, but you can use other kind of sensors that would be collect data and provide this data to be linked in some kind of platform or digital tool that can be used to improve urban resilience. We have done this kind of project, for example, regarding flooding in Curitiba.
Okay, thank you. I think this is also a very important reflection, particularly if we think of cities that may not be in the far end of the digitalization process. And you probably need to combine these two things. And for quite a while, areas, other countries also, there are even poorer, or other Brazilian cities and other cities in the world that have not gone so far in the digitalization. And this was a good example of how you actually can combine the digital platforms, the digital information, but also with other types of information if you enhance the participation of the public. And this brings me then to the next point. In our project, we are actually also working on citizen participation. We are developing tools, not only for improved urban planning, but also to improve inclusiveness. And the Professor Eunice Liu, what types of tools can actually promote inclusiveness?
Hello, everybody. My name is Eunice Liu. I'm an architect and urbanist and design professor at UTFPR, Curitiba, Brazil. Would you kindly share the presentation, Danielle? Thank you. In our research, we elaborated a library of components for participatory public management. Freedom of expression, including access to public information, is a universal right. So what have we done? Digital tools combined with other public management resource of participatory process in social demands, legal and political incentives and other factors can potentialize and engage citizen participation, which is key in the construction and maintenance of democracy. Participation is a major requirement for a city to be sustainable. So who are involved? The tools aim to reach all urban city players. So we need the dialogue between stakeholders, citizens, and decision makers to promote and catalyze citizen sustainability as public authority, market, nonprofit organizations, academy also. Without inclusion, we cannot achieve the ambitious goals of zero-emission society and safe and prosperous cities aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So in our research, would you pass, please? Our research was based on more than 150 apps and web apps found based on this keywords list. And as a result, you can check through the QR code. We collected a library of components for participation process, like, for example, protocol, image recognition, document repository, participation overview, and etc. And our why, or our aim, is to contribute and facilitate the exercise of citizenship, monitor, propose, and implement solutions altogether, and also integrate multiple and different actors in society. In the second edition of the Smart City Concepts, we are looking into how citizens, as well as society multiple players, can be engaged to contribute with policymakers, city planners, and public authorities in a two-way communication dialogue. And ICT solution is a potential tool to help us to achieve the desired engagement to promote sustainable development of our cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Anisi. We can see that it's interesting. It was a short chance to show, but yes, there are many different tools being tested or applied in different parts of the world to actually engage the citizens as a major component in creating a city for everybody. Actually, I see here a comment from Ipuk, from Oscar, that, well, citizens as sensors, in a way that as they participate, there is a kind of a natural engagement here and an actual choice also of pathways, which is quite interesting, and used also a very powerful word, which is democracy, which is something very important because the city is created by all and should be for all. I'd like to invite Francisco Malucelli. Francisco, you work for a major Swedish consultancy, Sweco, particularly in areas related to transport planning. In what ways are the Swedish cities organizing their way towards carbon neutrality? And what role does digitalization play in this process?
Thanks for the question, Samira. I would like to start by saying that I'm from Curitiba, and I'm in Sweden, and I have worked at IPUC and the planning department for 6 years, so I have a special feeling about Curitiba. I think one of the things that Sweden is very good at, from my perspective, is about long-term urban planning, and they use that as a major tool to orchestrate transformative change. And Curitiba is also very good with land use and urban planning. It's people know everywhere, and people from all around the world I talk to, people know Curitiba. But the way it's done here in Sweden, it's very focused to reduce the number of trips that are necessary to be taken, and it's done to give priority to public transport and active modes, so that as the end goal is to of course reduce car usage and greenhouse gas emissions. I think one of the tools they use a lot is backcasting or goal-oriented planning, where the amount of emissions or the amount of traffic that is desired for future scenarios is set as a goal, and all the planning is done towards that goal. So it's something that we use constantly here in our work as consultants. We have a good, an excellent access to open data, and that helps a lot. We use a lot of modeling here in Sweden, so a lot of time is spent in the planning phase, and the plannings are all long-term plannings for 20 years, 30 years into the future. Another strong thing here is the partnerships between the government, the agencies, and the academia. So all the professors that are part of this group, they do a lot of good research that helps the cities to towards this more sustainable future. I just had a meeting this morning as a quick example, and we have an ITS group here, an Intelligent Transportation Systems group in the company, and one of the engineers there is working with the Swedish Transport Administration in a project of digitalization of the entire road system here in Sweden. That the goal of that is also to have reduced climate environmental impact from transport.
Excellent, Francisco. Thank you for these examples. Yes, the long-term planning and the focus on public transport when it comes to mobility in the city is something perhaps that we can emulate more. On the cooperation with the academia, I think we are improving,
Yes.
and our project is a good example of that. Where
Yes.
also the city of Curitiba has discovered this pool of expertise in the universities that can be connected to urban planning. Well, time is running very fast, and I want to move on a little bit. First, I want to put a question to you for us to get engaged in through the Mentimeter. You will, what are the biggest challenges for urban transport planners in Brazil? And there are a few options here. Maybe, I don't know if you can read, I hope so. Governance, congestion, implement low carbon transport solutions, improve public transport, access funding for infrastructure, safety, quality, comfort, etc. So please, you can answer choosing two options, and we will show the answers in a few minutes. So just go on as we move on. And I'd like to invite now Daniele Moraes, who works with Curitiba in IPUC, the planning department in Curitiba. Curitiba has a long tradition in urban planning and is considered a model to emulate. Lately, we have also seen that Curitiba was chosen for the City Challenge organized by Swedish institutions, and it was launched yesterday in Dubai Expo. Daniele, could you tell us about the challenge and your idea behind it to develop integrated zero carbon urban areas in Curitiba? What is that all about?
Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about our participation. I have a presentation about it. So Curitiba has inscribed in a challenge to face climate change proposed by UN Habitat and some Swedish companies and institutions. Our goal is to implement 2 zero carbon areas in Curitiba. It comes from our main target to turn Curitiba into a carbon neutral city by 2050. And this goal was established by Plan Clima, which is a plan to address climate change in our city. According to this plan, we have 3 main sectors nowadays that have most emissions in the city, which are transportation, energy, and waste. And we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And our idea is to focus this challenge in these 3 main sectors. So our main goal is to develop innovative and integrated solutions. It could be business models, services, or technologies. And these solutions, they are towards a zero carbon emission area, contributing to Curitiba's ambition to reach such carbon neutrality by 2050. We have chosen 2 areas to be pilot projects for this challenge, and they are Vale do Pinhão area and Vila Torres area. And all the solutions proposed by innovators should be piloted in one or both areas, and they must prove that they can contribute to reduce emissions and to an urban sustainable development. So in these three main areas, we have these specific targets. Concerning energy, we search for innovative solutions to generate sustainable energy at an affordable price. Concerning mobility, we seek solutions to be tested in the two target areas in which the mobility of people and the distribution of loads and provision of local services have low emission and affordable cost for the neighborhood scale. And concerning waste, we seek innovative solutions in the areas of Vale do Pinhão and Vila Torres for a more effective segregation of urban solid waste and greater use of recyclable waste by communities, reducing the amount of waste sent to landfills. The idea is that the solutions proposed by innovators, they address they should address preferentially, at least two of these sectors. So it could be, for example, a proposal addressing mobility and energy at the same time. So we aim for integrated solutions. And also we look for co-benefits, such as income generation, training for these people to look for better quality of life, for better jobs. So the idea is that the best solutions proposed, they address more than one sector and they propose these co-benefits. So here we have the location of the target areas. We can go on. One of them is Vale do Pinhão. It's a former industrial area in Curitiba, so it has a focus on heritage buildings. It's a consolidated urban area with mixed uses and a great potential for urban renovation. And the other one is Vila Torres, which is a former informal occupation, now regularized, but still with a lot of social issues to be solved. People there, they live from, some people there, they live from the collection of recyclables from all the city. So this is one example of solving waste without reducing the income of these people who live from the separation of the recyclables. And also we have the Belém River, which is an important asset in this area. Thank you, and I invite you to access the challenge website, which was launched yesterday. I'm going to leave the link here in the chat, so please, if you could share with the audience. And we invite innovators to propose solutions for our challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danielle. It's great to see this Curitiba moving to the next step, very much in the spirit also that we work with the integration of different sectors and the way you require actually these two sectors to work together. And we have a question here, who can participate? Maybe you can very quickly address that.
Sure, anyone can participate, but we look for innovators from anywhere in the world. People can be from companies, from startups, from universities, but they have to commit to test the solutions that they propose. It's not just about giving the idea, but also they should test this idea on, so maybe developing prototypes, so the solutions must be tested.
Yes, exactly. And we know that the winner of this contest also will get some money to leverage on for this demonstrations, and there will be certainly other ways also of funding those demonstrations. So we want to have a living lab here, so very, very interesting. And in fact, coming back to the idea of integration, I would like to talk to Professor Paolo Monti, also co-leader of the Smart City Concepts project, because the ICT solutions will be an important part of this integration. And we have heard a lot about how ICT is expected to provide tools to advance the smart city concept. And what are the primary enablers and what opportunities will be open with digitalization and the convergence of multiple technologies to make the cities smarter?
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Samida, for the opportunity to actually discuss about this very exciting topic. I'm Paolo Monti and I come from Chalmers University of Technology in Gothenburg. As Samida said, I'm the co-leader of the Smart City project in Curitiba. So if we talk about technology, I think these are very exciting times to play with this concept, meaning that as we heard many examples so far, technology is one of the main enablers for bringing up this smart city concept. And the reason why these are exciting time, because, well, I always like to make this example. If we look back 20 years ago, I mean, we can remember how or what communication infrastructure were and what they were used for, right? So basically they were meant mainly for human interaction, voice services most of the time. If you look at a certain type of technology, and I'm referring to wireless, or if you wanted to have some kind of data connectivity, you had to refer to some kind of fixed dig down connectivity, right? So we had infrastructures that were built for specific purposes and they were not integrated together. The time we're living in right now is completely different. From one side, we see, or we hope to see very soon in the future, that access to connectivity services is almost available everywhere. And actually also we are enabled with devices that are sitting in our pockets that have the same capability, if you think about it, of desktop computers of 20 years ago. So from one end, we can connect almost everything everywhere, and from the other, we have processing capabilities that are very powerful. So what I'm referring here to is, and I guess Keiko make this link at the very beginning, to this new network infrastructure paradigm, so 4G or the coming 5G one, where basically we have one single infrastructure over which we can plug in a lot of services. And as I said, we already saw a lot of examples made so far. But it's not just the communication capabilities, it's the addition also of the possibility to compute and the availability of computing resources everywhere. I am, for example, making a link to this concept of edge computing. So if we have this edge node deployed in the city, and if we can equip this edge node maybe with some even more advanced functionality, for example, some AI services, then we create the perfect ecosystem in which the services that we just heard about can thrive, right? And additionally, if we can enable our citizens to actually take advantage of this, and by this also I mean maybe educating citizens on how to use these possibilities, or fostering the possibility, for example, for our younger generation to actually access and use this possibility in the best possible way, then we have a win-win scenario. And you already heard, I don't remember if it was in the chat, if it was mentioned, for example, about this crowdsourcing application, by which then the citizens are engaged themselves in the city of, in the life of the city. It can help actually the city to develop even further. So what I wanted to say in just a few concluding remarks is that this new communication infrastructure scenarios is the perfect ecosystem on which a smart city can thrive. And I guess both municipality and citizen can take advantage of this new paradigm. We already heard that, if the municipality understands the potential, then we can have better planning and we can deliver better services to the citizen. And if the citizen can understand what are the benefits of actually taking advantage of these tools, then the engagement is it's even higher.
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you also for highlighting these opportunities. But also, it makes us all think that there are also drawbacks. So what are the drawbacks? What are the most critical challenges that we need to address so that we really can take advantage of these opportunities?
Like in every aspect of life, there is no free lunch, right? So We have the ecosystem, and there's a lot of potential. But of course, when we bring a new solution and new technology, they also come with some challenges and some drawbacks, right? So if I have just to make maybe a couple of examples due to also the limited time that we have here, I would maybe highlight one more on the technical side of things and one maybe more on the ethical side of things. So from the technical point of view, I think, and actually there was a question related exactly to this aspect, I think the resiliency of our infrastructure is critical here. So if we have the infrastructure playing a crucial role in delivering services and maybe crucial and very important services, we have to make sure also that this infrastructure is somehow fault tolerant. So it can sustain or it can survive to maybe catastrophic scenarios, right? And in the Smart City project that we've been mentioning during the webinar, we are looking exactly at this. So we are trying to understand how to leverage upon data that are coming from the municipality in order to make sure that these digital services can survive. For example, I'm just making one example here in case of flooding events. So if we know which are the critical areas in the city by which when rain comes, flooding happens, then we know, for example, where redundancy, both for the connectivity and compute part of an infrastructure should be placed in order to make sure that such services can still exist when the weather gets bad, basically. Data are important, whether they are coming from citizens or whether they are collected through IT sensor. But the moment we start handling data, and here comes the ethical challenge, we need to make sure that this data are handled properly, right? So having data in our hands provides us with a lot of information, but also puts us also in a place where we have a lot of responsibilities. So we need to be very careful in which way we gather data and also in which way we handle such data. And finally, there is also I would call it a perpendicular aspect when we deal with ICT infrastructure, that is the security. Security meaning that we need to make sure that from one end, our infrastructure itself is not tampered with, so we don't have malicious actor that try to disrupt our services or try to extract information out of our infrastructure. And also, we need to ensure the security of the data themselves, so in the way they are exchanged, but also in the way that are stored. So I would say that, out of these examples, resiliency, as it was highlighted also before, and security and an ethical handling of the data are maybe the biggest challenges.
Thank you, Paolo. Yes, and so as we move to this system approach to the dealing with the integration of services and in the city, all these issues come in. So you see that the project is very transdisciplinary in the way we approach. We have experts here from very different disciplines and different types of companies involved in this project. And this is a big challenge, is to find the common ground on the language, but also a requirement to actually provide the solutions, the types of the solutions that Daniele was telling Curitiba is looking for dealing with the climate challenge. And in those lines, then I would like to ask Professor Ricardo Luders to finalize on this discussion on the project, telling us about what you think is the essence of the contributions from the project Smart City Concepts up to now in the development of the cities such as Curitiba, and in what ways can that contribute to the development of other cities?
Okay, thank you, Semida. How much time do we have?
We don't have much time, but you do have 3 minutes, 4 minutes maximum.
Okay, so I would like to, coming back to the transport solutions for transport, if we have to face greenhouse emissions, we have to find smart solutions for transport. It means that we don't find this solution in transport sector only. In our group, we have opportunities, for example, in artificial intelligence centers being created. For example, here in Brazil, we have a recent contact with São Paulo, and we are cooperating with CISB to go and find new opportunities to collaborate with Swedish partners. We have people from our team is going to the recent call from CISB for prospecting opportunities in Sweden. So I think that the main contribution of this new edition of the project, Smart City Concepts in Curitiba, is represented by what Curitiba can bring as contribution to other cities. It's a living lab, thanks to the access to data. It's important, very important, but in the last year, we had access to many data, and they are provided by our partners in the municipality, PUC, and so on. So it's very important here in Curitiba to have access to open data. The second one is represented by what our colleagues in Sweden can bring as experience. As Francisco said, we have experiences in Sweden that are robust solutions, but we have also new ones that is still being tested. That's all important for us in Curitiba. So perhaps the most promising avenue to follow regarding our side is considering solutions in a heterogeneous urban environment. We have urban areas, as Danielle said in the challenge, occupied different by humans with different densities and socioeconomic profiles. They represent a challenge for proposals, for example, solutions for low carbon mobility, because we have several other priorities under discussion that have a strong impact in the everyday life. As Danielle said, for example, people living in certain areas of Curitiba, they depend economically from their work, their labor. So new refreshing ideas are expected to come from our partners. For instance, IPUC, the planning office in Curitiba, brings not only ongoing solutions, but also new projects and perspectives for mobility and retrofitting in Curitiba. IPUC is a key player catalyzing the transformation of the city, but we are all part of that transformation one way or another. So thank you, Semida. That's my conclusion and final words.
Okay, thank you. Before we close, we have just a few minutes left. I'd like to ask Danielle to put the results of the inquiry. It's a good feedback for us. What do you think we should also in the project look particularly at? The issue of governance comes very high, but we see that actually this shows that the challenges are many, and people see those challenges more or less depending on what end they're coming from. And so I find this quite interesting, this diagram. Thank you all for your answers. To finalize, let me say a few words. I hope you got a feeling of the things we are doing, but most of all, the understanding that cities are increasingly engaged in actions to address climate change, that smart cities need to be also zero carbon cities. Cities have the opportunity to catalyze transformative change and pave the way for a low carbon prosperous future. And as cities address climate change, they can take advantage of new technologies such as digitalization and clean technologies, not only to achieve carbon neutrality, but also to improve welfare. And as digitalization proceeds, new opportunities are appearing, and they can be harnessed despite the many challenges ahead, which we cannot forget, as Paulo was reminding us. Still to succeed, we need to coordinate actions and develop tools. This is what we are doing. We need technologies, but also the engagement of the stakeholders, and that includes really every citizen. Let me take this opportunity to thank our consortium, all the team members, and the sponsors, CISB, for hosting the event for us. And I would like to invite the co-leaders. We are 4 co-leaders, 2 on the Swedish side, 2 on the Brazilian side. Just turn on your cameras. It is Professor Ricardo Ludes, Professor Keiko Fonseca, Professor Paolo Monti, and myself, but also, again, with this fantastic team, and you have met just some of them here today. We have organized the other webinars and they have published scientific papers along the way. We also have a newsletter, so make sure to stay connected to us. Until the next time. So if everybody turns on your cameras, I'd like to take a picture of us all. Let me put my view here in full screen. It's a fantastic crowd. Please turn on your cameras, everybody. Don't be shy.
And smile.
And smile.
And Semida, if you let me, thank you for our backstage. Daniel Pigato.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Leticia,
yes. Thank you, Ricardo, for reminding me. We have a lot of people in the backstage doing a fantastic job to make this work. So thank you for correcting me in this miss.
And thank you to Leticia of CISB and other backups.
Yeah, sure. Let's name it then. Daniel Pigato, Leticia from CISB, Carlos from Brazil and Chalmers, and Carolina from KTH.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all. And until the next time, and stay tuned because there's a big program in the CISB anniversary annual meeting and the Swedish Innovation Weeks. It's still that is going on now, just starting. So stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.